Hi, I'm Julia Asavoaei and my project is on Darfur. About Darfur. Darfur is an entirely Muslim region and it is home to about 6 million Arab and non-Arab people in the far west of Sudan. It is a region of barren landscape plagued by drought and scarcity of resources. Each tribe has their own unique language and unique art forms and dances, but they are only allowed to speak the Arabic language in school and were beaten if they spoke another language. These are some pictures of their art forms and of the desert-like land, and it's very, very dry. They didn't have a lot of water, and this is where they lived, their tents and their families, and also how they danced, and they just try to enjoy, and on their free time they would dance a lot. Where is Darfur? Darfur is the largest country in Africa. It is located in northeastern Africa and it borders the Red Sea and falls between Egypt and Uganda and Chad and 6 other countries. It is a region in western Sudan and is the size of Spain. The population of Darfur is 6 million people. And the conflict of Darfur increased tensions in neighboring Chad and Central African Republic, and hundreds of thousands want to escape the violence. And here's some pictures. You can see the affected area in Sudan and how big the Darfur is. Alright, what is Darfur genocide? Darfur genocide is the current mass slaughter and rape of Darfur men, women, and children in western Sudan. The killings began in 2003 and continue still today, and is the first genocide in the 21st century. Genocide is being carried by the government, armed force, Arab militias, which are the Janjaweeds, and they are the devils on horseback. They destroy villages, they rob economic resources, polluting the water sources, and murdering, raping, and torturing the civilians. The major rebel groups are the Sudanese Liberation Movement and the Justice and Equality Movement. And as of today, 480,000 have been killed and 2.8 million people are displaced. Sudan was involved in 2 prolonged civil wars in the 20th century, and there is a competition for scarce resources, which played a large role. Nomads began to compete for grazing land, and they couldn't settle disagreement, causing the region to become militarized. And there were difficulties of famines, desertification, and civil war between the North and South Sudan rose tension. Oil was discovered in western Sudan. Between the North and the South, they reached a peak in the 1900s, and the government ignored the reports of the rising violence. Comprehensive Peace Act ended, and North and South war in 2005, granting political power to South Sudan. Darfur remained undeveloped and lacked development assistance. There were failed peace talks, which allowed conflict to continue, but the most successful peace talk was the peace talk in Abuja in 2005, leading Darfur Peace Agreement. In 2008, the United Nations African Union issued to maintain peace in Darfur with 26,000 troops, and it was authorized to use force to protect civilians, and only 9,000 were sent, and they lacked a lot of equipment. In 2009, International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for the Sudanese President Omar Bashir, and he had crimes against humanity and on charges of genocide. The government of Sudan has yet to turn him over, and the country has seen major protests and increased violence since Sudanese signed truce for agreement for peace, and the Janjaweed accused of invasions and attack in Chad, and they caused 100,000 Chinese to flee and conducting assaults and attacks. How did the attacks begin? Attacks on Darfur villages began with Sudanese Air Force bombings. Air companions are followed by Janjaweed militia raids. All remaining village men, women, and children are either murdered or forced to flee, burning their livestock, enslaving and raping women, children, stealing livestock are very common. Dead bodies are tossed in wells to contaminate water sources, and entire villages are burned to the ground. You can see in the pictures. The families are very depressed and the burning of the villages. Right, and the response. Sudan was also declared the genocide by the U.S. Secretary of State. And President W. Bush doubled the number of troops. The British Prime Minister Tony Blair wrote in a letter to the members of the European Union calling for a unified response to the crisis. About 26,000 peacekeepers would try to stop the violence in Darfur. British Prime Minister also said it's the greatest human disaster the world faces today. The British government urged the Sudanese president to cooperate. Both China and Russia worked to block many United Nations Security Council. China is the Sudan's chief diplomat supporter. China invests in the Sudanese oil, and China is its largest oil provider. The Sudanese military is supplied by the Chinese-made helicopters, tanks, fighter planes, bombers, rocket launch, propelled grenades, and machine guns. Russia and China maintain a strong partnership, and the countries oppose the UN peacekeeping troops in Sudan. Russia strongly supports Sudan's territorial honesty, and Sudan is Russia's strongest investment partner and political supporter in Europe. Russia considers Sudan the most important global friend in African continent. Alright, and here are my sources. Thank you for watching.